Alright everybody, you're watching us on Facebook Live. Every Thursday we come to you from the downtown east side. This is my co-host Darren Gaylor. Say hi, Darren! Hi, we do personal stories at the second half of our show. We just finished interviewing Chris Shea from Life's Journey's blog. And that was all about inner peace and meditation. We're back in our original studio where they are using out on the streets. We parked our car and there's people using next to us. We need to get in. There was a shooting gallery at the front door. So it's quite interesting broadcasting a recovery show live from the downtown east side. But we're going live now with our personal story. Darren, this is a professional show. Jeez. Okay, are we ready? Yeah. Walking down the street. And we're going live.
And welcome back to Talk Recovery down here in Vancouver's Quad Radio Station, CFRO 100.5 FM. Little Tom Petty. And I think we're going to kick into some Van Morrison, a couple of classics on today's show. We have now the best time of the show, another personal story. She's not new to the studio, right? No. I mean, we've had Heidi down here before, but you know what? Everybody's life just, seems to get good quick, eh? So, it's always good to have people back in and see what's happening. So why don't you, first, let's relate to some of our listeners. What's a little bit of your story that got you into this place in the first place?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me here today, you guys. I always love the call saying, come on down.
Come on down.
And I'm actually glad that I found out that the location had changed from last minute. So, I mean, I can interestingly relate to everybody in recovery and everybody in addiction who's out currently. To the people we had to, sadly walk over at the front entrance, to the hills in West Van, to the beaches in California. I've, done it all. The bottom line was, for the last 5 years of my using career, it was just me in my bedroom, and that was it. So my addiction had won and, put me in my own head alone, so.
Yeah, I was just thinking about my last 5 years too. That's like, oh man, how isolated we become, eh?
Yeah.
And so what was it that, I just know that for me, I wasn't the person making choices and decisions at that time in my life. I am now a result of where I ended up because of some advice somebody gave, members of my family, or, a last ditch effort. I really don't take credit for my start. What was your introduction to your version of recovery?
Well, interestingly, for quite a while, I didn't know what I wanted because it wasn't presented to me on a silver platter. But I know I wanted change. So fellowship is a big part of my story. So for the 4 years, I was in and out of the rooms in Vancouver area trying to find my way, dragging my son, my 2-year-old son, to meetings with me, just desperate for like an hour of reprieve from myself, right? Unfortunately, that I wasn't collected in the rooms. I don't know why that happened, but I'm sure a lot of people were terrified of me coming into the rooms. Driving in loaded with a baby in my lap, so to speak, right? That's a scary case, but so the moral of that story is my addiction went deeper, and the social ministry of children got involved in my life and decided that I was an unfit parent for my son. And of course, I originally was kicking and screaming that one, trying to explain to them that I was the most perfect parent for my son, which I am, but not when I'm loaded on every drug there is imaginable. So
I was gonna say, that we've just been talking with Chris Shea about your one's own ability to admit their faults, their defects, what they're not good at. I mean, it's so important to understanding, your consequences or your responsibilities is having them. But addiction comes with denial, and the ministry tells you you're an unfit parent. That's soul crushing. But at the same time, looking back, Oh yeah,
it was, of course I was. I literally was nodding and driving and, I don't really want to get into the gory graphic, because it's gory and graphic details, to be honest. You wouldn't, a horror movie would be made out of what I was doing with my child in tow, so. And
did that become a motivating factor to change or motivator to stay the same?
Finally, it became the motivating factor to change. I knew I had to do something different, but I did not know what I had to do. And it most certainly, I wasn't going to be able to figure this out on my own. I actually, to be honest, I'd done a couple stints in detox. I didn't really know that there was all these options that are available to us today. And and since I've came in 6.5 years ago, it's definitely gotten greater, and more, I don't know what the word is off the top of my head, but socially acceptable to be in recovery, I guess, is the right term.
I think so, and I think that, this exact moment, this show, these personal stories are a catalyst to that. And, sometimes you get these philosophies of anonymity and what that means, and rules about sharing, especially on air in a radio station. And of course, that's in the 12-step fellowship, whether that's what you do or not. It's one area of recovery that wants to help people not feel like they're going to be exposed when they're new.
Oh.
Right? Imagine having the version, your child taken away from you, you're a week clean, and you have to tell that story on air. You wouldn't do it.
No, you wouldn't do it.
And you would absolutely scoff at anybody that would tell you would have to. And that's why I think anonymity is important in somebody's beginning, when they're a vulnerable person. And we're now people in recovery. You are now a person in recovery, correct? And so now these stories can become what people need to hear.
Well, it's do or die now, right? It's changed a lot over the years too, and honestly, I of course have studied, like anything in my life, the traditions and whatnot. I am responsible for speaking only on behalf of my own recovery. Where the line is crossed is if I start talking about you publicly, right? So I'm actually able to talk about anything that I want to publicly. Yeah. And that's the bottom line. So, yeah. And I'm going to do it, because if somebody else did it for me, I probably would have come in a lot sooner. Yeah.
And we're talking about the opportunity of recovery, and that it isn't a building, it's not a place, it's an idea, it's a way of life, and it's also the hope that anybody that's currently in a place where they can't stop using, it's going to be hard. There's some roads to take, there's some avenues. You don't just stop using and become a person in recovery that can share their stories proudly. It's something that's earned, but I know, and through all the personal stories we've had, it's just, there's a pride, there's a sense of, I don't say lack of regret. I think that there's always, for me anyways, a bit of regret of my past, but there is a knowing that everything I've gone through has allowed me to sort of have this message and give me that opportunity to share it. And now we've had you on again. And so last time, what was going on? You had a clothing line.
Yes, yep, and I still have it.
Okay.
Yep, still going strong.
And so what, tell us a little bit of the history. What started it for you?
Well, interestingly, my background is fine arts, graphic design, and I have as a freelance graphic designer, I was doing a lot of projects for other people. And, you know, as a strong-minded, opinionated person in the work field out there, I was really struggling with, like, having to do it your way. Surprise, surprise, for an addict, right? So I decided to follow my passion, which, you know, in my first couple years of recovery became recovery. And fashion, I have a fashion background also, and then my arts background, and I incorporated all three of them and came up with the clothing line, which consisted of only 12 shirts back then. You know, and I couldn't keep up with the demand on those 12 shirts.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. And now we're sitting at about 48 different messages.
48?
And 48 different messages, and I've expanded off of shirts onto wellness wear, onto like leggings and hoodies, and yeah, you name it.
For all seasons.
All seasons. Like every time it's like a new collection. You know, I just did this whole party sober, without minus the one word that is on front of the shirt on radio.
We can't say
yeah, you know, like this over the summer, and just I do these little collections of where I'm at in my thinking and my mind, and I'm, you know, so that's just kind of how it works for us right now.
Yeah. And there's a uniqueness to it. Like there's you know, if you can imagine, there's, you know, a couple, two to three, like words in each message on each shirt. Is there, what's the longest sort of message on one of your shirts?
Well, of course, it's actually an interesting process, because my initial like start has a multiple amounts of words in it.
Oh yeah.
And I've learned that have to downsize and simplify. So you know, I would probably say you know, one keyword and then maybe like 5 to 6 like.
So you get the message as you walk by the shirt. You don't have to stop and read it, right?
Yeah, yeah. And girls don't want people.
Can you tell us?
Their chest all the time. What
Exactly.
does that say? Yeah.
Can you tell us what the top selling message shirt is?
On radio. I don't know what words
is
I'm allowed
it?
to
Oh,
say.
is that
No. I mean, we did a really fun line. I decided I've learned about myself, you know, through lots of. I happen to be in a 12-step program, so I have the opportunity to rewrite and write, you know, the steps over and over again. And I've learned that I can be exactly who I am. And, you know, I'm not censoring myself on multiple levels, whether it's recovery or my language or whatever that looks like. As a mother, I don't care, whatever it looks like. So I've decided to do this whole line with the F-bomb in the middle of it. And I'm not going to lie. It was a risk I took. I went to New York City to the Marianne Williamson and Gabby Bernstein women's you know, this big huge thing, and I was like, oh, should I launch it there? And I'm like, yeah, why not? So I did all the spiritual, you know, the safe bets, and then I dropped the one shirt there, and I sold out within seconds. And the people that were buying it were people I wouldn't imagine, the people who want to be what they want to be. And so that message has like gone skyrocketed.
I think it's an appropriate use of the F-bomb. I mean, you're not just throwing it around loosely. It's really it's making the point. And it's making the message sort of strong.
Yeah, it's like un-F yourself, right?
There you go.
So I mean, let's be honest, we all could take a little bit of that medicine.
Honest, that's something I had to do from day one. Not something I wanted to do. I was told I had to, and you know, when I came to recovery, I thought the world had to un-F itself.
Because it's all them, not us.
It's all them, you know. And so if you're sitting there struggling right now and suffering, and you want to un-F the entire world, I got news for you. Ain't gonna change anything. The only thing you can un-F is yourself. And that's exactly what our first guest was talking about, as well as inner peace. And the core of our disease is self-centeredness. And so I need to un-F myself first before I can see any type of peace and move forward in my life. So we're really proud of Heidi. You were also at Pride this weekend.
I sure was.
And what was that like for you? What was the question I have is, so people are walking by. You know, in Vancouver, it's like Pride's drugs, weed, alcohol. Let's do it. Yeah, do it hard. And then all of a sudden, there's Heidi selling a party effing sober shirt. I know when I was using it, I'd be like, that's weird. So what was the reaction for people when they walk by your booth?
Well, first of all, like, hats off to Pride. I mean, that my first year going to that event, I'm usually away at a different, like, camping retreat in the woods this weekend. You know, I still have glitter coming out of all angles on me, and my bed is full of it. But you know what? It was a blast. It was a lot of fun. You know, music and energy is a form of drug to me, for lack of a better term. Wow, I was actually shocked at this event. I've been doing a couple different events over the summer, more, you know, catering along music festival, that kind of stuff, going with our Party Sober line. And that one took the cake, and I could not believe how many people in Vancouver came out of the woodwork. Like, it was interesting. It became, once again, this is quite common for my booths. We also become a safe zone for people, so they will, like, kind of come through the masses and come in there and grab a seat and sit down and go, I just need, like, which I can relate to, I just need some downtime, and I see your shirt and I want to be, like, with you guys, you know. So a lot of people I didn't recognize. I know a lot of people in Vancouver across the board in recovery, and lots of new people making an appearance, and I sold out of absolutely everything while I was there.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So that's just how it is.
Any interesting questions from the audience or from the crowds that were there? Like, you know, what is this all about and all that?
No. This one in particular, we were up in Kelowna last weekend at Center of Gravity, and I had a lot of people come up to me like, how can you have fun? And, like, it was like, you know, and I'm like, well, why don't you ask me tomorrow?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But I'm still here, and you're still here watching the sun come up.
Exactly.
You know, but
and I can remember this conversation, and you can't.
Yeah, exactly. But this,
we're not dissing anyone that uses.
No.
If you use, by all means, have fun. I had a great time using them a long time ago, but it just changed for me. We're running out of time. It's time for us to move on. And if you are interested in our show or have any ideas, you can go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/Talk Recovery Vancouver, or you can email Jordan, who's holding the camera. Hi, Jordan. You can email Jordan at community@lastdoor.org. This show is powered by New West Recovery, and you can be a guest on our show. You can be like Heidi, and you could be a personal story too. Heidi, thank you very much for being on our show. How can people buy your shirts?
They can go to my website, www.addictivedesigns.ca.
Thank you, Heidi. And don't forget, September 7th and September 8th is the Recovery Capital Conference of Canada. September 9th is Recovery Day BC. That whole week is Recovery Week BC. So come on and be part of recovery and show some support for recovery, and register for the conference. It's a great learning curve. Darren, how are you finishing off today?
Right side of the road.